Hi guys, I'm not very good at this, so please be patient as I try to navigate through live because, as you know, I'm not very good with technology. So for those of you joining that don't know what's going on and why I'm doing a live for maybe the third time in my entire life, it's because we're gonna get the opportunity to talk to Meena Harris, who is the legendary niece of Kamala Harris, and she is a legend in herself because she's a lawyer, she's an author, and she's the founder of the Phenomenal Woman Action Campaign. So she is a very busy person, and I'm very happy that she's getting the time to talk to us. So I'm going to try to get her to figure out how we can get her to go live with us. As you can tell, I'm not very good at this. Don't you guys love how super exciting this live is right now? I'm not very good at this. I know I keep repeating that, but I don't know what I'm doing. Also, thank you for the compliments on my hair. I was very spontaneous and was like, why not? I should just dye my hair really blonde and see where that goes. And thankfully, I don't look like I completely have lost my mind. Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can figure this out fairly quickly. I'm really sorry, guys. I wish I was way better at this. Okay. I think I got it figured out.
Hi!
Hi, Mina. I'm so sorry. I'm like a really bad Indian, and I am not good with technology whatsoever.
No, it's fine. I'm a bad Indian in many ways too, and this is actually my fault. I'm both late and I thought it was on my Instagram, so it's actually totally not your fault.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. I fully blame you.
Right, please. Happy to. Wait, I'm
uh,
so bright. I'm trying to figure out how to turn this thing down. Okay, there we go.
yeah.
Hi!
Hey, so first off, how are you?
I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. I'm trying to turn my brightness down and I don't know how to work this thing. This
Oh,
is
no
me
worries.
being I'm too old for this. I'm exhausted. I'm working really hard, just trying to, do everything I can in the next 24 days. We only have 24 days left until election day, as you know, but I'm really fired up. I've been doing like phone banks all morning with folks all over the country. I was in Florida like 5 minutes ago talking to people and volunteers who are phone banking today. I was in another place earlier. So I'm just like, I'm all over and doing whatever I can. I'm so tired, but I'm so fired up. And I think we're gonna win this thing. We just gotta. I've been sprinting for a long time, so now I'm still sprinting, and I will do that through election day.
Oh,
So
I just want to
that's
say thank you so much for all the work that you're doing to like
oh well, thank you.
like like for someone like me, it's nice to like see so many people fighting to protect each other's rights and other people's rights that are like farther marginalized than themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like the work that you're doing is phenomenal, but it's also you guys are having to be so reactive as a campaign.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about the debates for a second?
Yeah, we can. Except first, I want to ask how you're doing. And thank you to you for supporting the campaign, doing this on a Saturday. I know you are busy. I know folks have a lot going on. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. There's just like a lot to deal with. So how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm feeling I don't want to get too comfortable, but I'm feeling really optimistic.
Good.
And it was so like it's been so inspiring to see like the poise and determination and I don't know, just the consistency that comes from the Biden-Harris campaign. And it's like, it makes me really hopeful for the future. And I don't want to get like too comfortable because it's important to stay like vigilant.
Yes,
but
yes.
I'm,
thank you for
like,
that.
I'm getting like really, I'm getting pumped. I just actually voted yesterday. And
awesome.
I felt so like patriotic to be like, oh, okay, this is my first time voting. And I can sit there and be like, I'm very proud of the candidates that I'm, supporting.
Where are you located? Are you in California, right?
I'm California.
Okay, yeah, I got my ballot. I'm sort of like, I feel like it's such a big moment and I don't want to rush through it. We all need to get our ballots in very soon. We normally, we always do mail in, so we always get our ballots in the mail. But then we do them in person and then we take them to the polling location because it's like now a ritual with our kids. So I'm like going back and forth between, do I just get it done and mail it in as I've been telling everyone to do, or do we like still have our little ritual and wait till election day? So anyway, but I got mine in the mail and it was one of the most amazing feelings ever. It was maybe one of the most, obviously it's personal to me too, but oh my God, I just felt so excited and frankly relieved, right? I think we're up against a lot and that's part of why I want folks to just get their ballots in as soon as possible. So there's, no questions and we need to have a decisive victory. But doesn't it feel good to vote? Doesn't it feel, like you said, it feels patriotic, which it is, right?
Yeah, I know a big thing that I grew up with my mom is, as someone who's like very anxious, like she would always be like, have you done your part? Like if it's on a big scale or if it's in a big or a small scale, if you're in an argument with someone, did you do your part? Did you say I'm sorry? Did you try to resolve it? And I think on the bigger scale of these things, I'm really asking myself constantly, like, have I done my part?
Yes.
And, all of us are spread thin because being a human is hard at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But I think, for those of us that are checking our registration and staying on top of like, okay, when are we getting our ballots and when can we turn them in? It's so nice to see.
Hold on a second. My alarm is going off and I need to turn it off. Sorry. Technical difficulties.
No, do not stress at all. If I'm one of those people that will leave like 40 alarms on in the morning.
No, sorry. I couldn't hear anything, but it's like, this is how I stay on time because it's just like, otherwise I'll just lay down and
No. I fully understand. I'm the kind of person that sets like 40 alarms.
Yeah,
so
I depend on it.
Really on that. Yeah.
But I love what you're saying. I think, and it's something that I think you said your mom emphasizes for you, right? And about doing your part. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's so cool to see so many people doing their part and going, okay, let me check my registration and let me like make sure I'm staying on top of like when my ballot is coming in. And it's nice to do your part in the big scheme of things and be like, wow, okay, like I voted. I'm working to like make a difference.
Exactly. And it's easy. It's the easiest way we can do our parts. But yeah, I mean, my grandmother especially was a huge influence on me and told me that, right, that I have not only the power and the ability to do my part, but she also taught me that I had responsibility, and doing your part can mean anything, right? And it should be personal, and it just means showing up. It means doing something and starting small. Perhaps just making sure you vote, right, as a first step is okay, and that is part of playing a role. And as you said, it feels good. I think it's important to have conversations about, what next, right? I think a lot, especially young folks, are sort of like, okay, I vote and then what, right? What does this really mean? And I think we can get into that, but I think at the most basic, level, the first step is that we all have to vote. And there's just so much at stake. You know, we are in the middle of a health crisis, an economic crisis, a racial justice crisis, you know, law enforcement crisis. I mean, so much all at once. And and my mom and aunt say this all the time, which is, you know, what am I going to tell my kids when they ask me what I did in this moment? And I'm going to be honest, I've always been involved in politics. I've always done my part. But I definitely woke up the next morning in 2016 after Election Day and felt guilt that I didn't do enough. And, you know, wondered if I could have done more. And part of that, you know, obviously this is personal to me, and I have a family member who is, you know, on the ticket, but beyond the personal connection, like, I don't want to feel that again. And other folks I've heard, you know, talk about it, like, we can't have any regrets, no questions, no regrets. Like, we just, you know, got to put it all in. And, you know, we only have 24 days left. So I think any person, no matter who you are, you know, ordinary folks, like, each of us can commit to doing something for each day until Election Day. And to your point, it can be like small, right? It can be texting people in your phone book. It can be, you know, calling that cousin or whoever who might live in a battleground state who you haven't talked to in a couple months. Just like commit to doing something, anything each day if you can. And everything counts.
How do you usually like combat those like young voters who feel like not combat, but how do you like advise young voters who are just like, my vote doesn't matter? Because I know, you know, we really think about the size of America and how many Americans can vote. It can feel overwhelming. It can be like, well, what's the point? Like, I'm not a significant enough person. But like, what advice can you speak to that?
I mean, I have so many responses. I think the first is what I already said, which is that there's so much at stake in this election. How can anyone sit it out, right? It's certainly the bare minimum is voting. But also voting is your voice. Your voice is your power. If you're not exercising that power, you know, your voice isn't heard. And second to that means that somebody else's voice is being heard, right? I think there's lots of sort of like PC ways to phrase this, but, and so I'm not going to say like, oh, if you know, don't vote, it's a vote for Trump. But I do think that, it's, you know, you're ceding some of your power and deciding that, you're not gonna participate. And I think, to me, when I think about all the voter suppression, election interference, what we're seeing already around voter intimidation, like, if you have any questions about how important your vote is, they wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress it. They wouldn't be trying so hard to make sure that young people don't vote. And to your point, part of their tactics and, you know, as this, you know, wannabe dictator, authoritarian that we're dealing with, is to overwhelm people, to confuse people, to make you feel like your vote doesn't matter. So when we talk about like our power, I mean, I think, to me, I think of it as fighting back. I'm not going to let somebody do that to me. Right. And that is what they're doing. And so it's sort of like, I mean, again, I don't want to get like preaching condescending either, but like, don't get played, because that is what is going on here. Right. Like, so, and then I think there's another, and I also don't want to be flippant, like, I think that for young people, there is a question of, you know, how does my vote translate into, you know, real policies, and how does it, you know, help affect my community? And I mean, we can have that conversation too, but I think what I'll say in general about it is that, and I think it's an important conversation to have, but in general, I want to be clear that, you know, we are not electing saviors. Kamala and I was going to say Kamala and Maya, because I'm so used to saying that. Kamala and Joe are not going to save us. Only we can save ourselves, and the people, right, are whose voices need to be heard and who need to do this work. But that is what it's about, is that it is a collaborative relationship, right? And the way that we elect public servants to serve the public. And so if you are unsure about this, or, you know, may not agree with every, you know, policy position, I believe, as I think your mother taught you, as my grandmother and my family taught me, that I have a duty to use my voice and to hold my elected officials and my leaders accountable, right? So don't just, on either side, like, don't just sit back and say, oh, well, what does that do for me? I'm just going to sort of, you know, let things play out because it doesn't matter or it doesn't affect me. And it just goes, again, to the fact that we all have incredible power and influence The work does not end on election day or when we, win the election. And one of the things that I personally have been so inspired by is how much this ticket already is showing that it is open and welcoming to lots of different perspectives and voices. And I'll give one example. I did, one of these sort of live chats with a climate justice activist and expert, and she shared that early on the environmental justice platform was like fine, but it wasn't like the greatest thing that she'd ever seen. And she reached out to the campaign and she gave them feedback, and she told them how they could improve it. And they listened and they welcomed that conversation. And not only that, they implemented the changes that she suggested, so much so that she says, it's one of the best, most progressive environmental platforms she's ever seen from any, presidential campaign in history. But that's also not enough, right? Like, we got to take it further, and we're going to take it further. And I think that, dynamic shows not already what this White House is going to look like. But to bring it back to your question, it's on us to keep doing that work, to keep challenging our leaders, to, yes, hold them accountable, right? To, make changes that, we want to see and that affect our lives and our communities. So, again, I don't want to make it too sort of individualistic, because I think that, that's not only what it's about, but I do feel an immense sense of personal responsibility, not only to vote, but also to continue doing the work. And when each of us does that, when each of us comes to it with that sense of responsibility, that's when change happens. That's when movements happen, right? And we're seeing that right now. With BLM, with climate change activism. I mean, this is the work of the people, and we have to keep it up. And I want to emphasize too, sorry, I've been going on, but, people have been doing this work for a long, long time, right? BLM, the Black Lives Matter was founded 7 years ago, and only kind of now are we having this reckoning that, we is a long time coming, and we should have had a long time ago. But it just goes to show that you have to keep up the work. And again, it doesn't end with one election. The work continues. And I challenge everybody to think about that and take on that responsibility to keep doing the work.
Yeah. And I think that what's been missing in this administration is a big thing is we haven't been listened to as people. We're not being heard. And what is exciting is that hopefully that with this election, we know that with the Biden and Harris campaign and that ticket is that we will be heard as people and as individuals. And that is, it's something that's just been lacking for such a long time. And I constantly hear people going like, oh, well, riots are really bad. And like, I don't support riots. And it's like, well, riots are the reaction of an unheard group of people. Like that is what happens when a negligent government exists.
Yes.
And Black Americans have tried everything, and they shouldn't have to work this hard to go, ouch, it hurts, like something is wrong. And I think it's so important that the next group of people that we elect, that, we think past like stock markets, all of that, and we go, how are the people feeling and how are they hurting and how can we help? And that's something that's just been missing.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point. I also would remind ourselves that, like, not only are folks not being listened to, but folks are being, preyed upon and, exploited during a crisis for our leaders' political and personal gain. I just want to, it is so wild, how fundamental this stuff is. And it's not just about being heard. It's about people, caring about human life, right? That is where we are right now. And that's when I think, I get frustrated when folks are, saying that they might not vote or they don't know how it matters. It's like, people are fucking dying. There are hundreds of thousands of people who did not have to die and would not have died had this been handled in a moral, smart way, right? I mean, it's like, not only is he incompetent and exacerbated this, but as I said, he exploited it, right? He exploited this crisis. And obviously, this is not, Donald Trump did not make all of this stuff, right? He didn't invent racism. We've been dealing with this for generations, and it's not just about him, but the fact is he is exploiting it. He is deepening, division. He is emboldening racists, right? And racially motivated violence. I mean, I worry just, you know, how far backwards we've gone. And again, it's just so fundamental in terms of electing leaders who, as you said, listen to people, but also like care about people and actually lead with empathy and compassion and humanity. Like that is what has been lost. And that's when we talk about, you know, this being not only a fight for our democracy, but, you know, truly the soul of our nation. Like, who are we? Who are we becoming? And again, I want to be clear that I recognize that this is something, you know, in terms of racism and discrimination and, you know, systemic oppression, something that is built into the fabric of our country. But, you know, that's the work of generations to, you know, get us out of that. But at the very least, again, we need leaders who understand that and
Yes.
have a vision for, you know, as the campaign says, building back better. A lot of folks, I think, have all, you know, there's been kind of this conversation around like, we need to get back to normal and, you know, normal before the pandemic, normal even before Trump was elected. And like normal was not working for a lot of people. That was not normal. And so it's really, yes, about getting out of this mess, but it's also about visionary, compassionate, smart leadership that will take us into an even better future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's so important that we go back to basics,
Yes.
which is the pursuit of happiness and making sure that every American feels safe
Exactly.
in their own country and in their own home.
Yep.
And if someone's going, hey, I'm not feeling safe right now, we need to acknowledge that and we need to make sure like, okay, how do we like help this other person out? Because it is a privilege to feel safe in your own country.
Yes, absolutely.
And we need to make sure that like everyone has access to that. And no one should be afraid to just walk down the street in the evening to go to, you know, to grab a candy bar at a drugstore. Like that,
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a fear of people, for people. And we need to make sure that like everyone's rights are protected because they're not right now. They're being questioned. And we really need to make sure that everyone is being heard and being listened to. And yeah, I just like, honestly, like, Meena, like ditto to everything you just said because you just like took the words right out of my mouth. I just want to say like, thank you so much for jumping on here and doing this. I like really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. I have to ask you, I know we need to wrap up, but I'm just curious about sort of your, you know, journey in activism and in politics. You mentioned that your mother encouraged you to do your part, whatever that may mean. But, you know, have you always been this active? Has it been sort of an evolution for you? And I would ask you, you know, the same thing. What are you telling young folks? I'm sure you get lots of people reaching out, right? Asking you about your perspective on all of this. And so I want to ask you the same question of what do you tell them and how are you viewing this from your own personal journey?
Yeah, my original kind of like venture into activism is actually my best friend Cameron. He had passed away last July. And he was big in philanthropy and he did a lot of amazing work. So we started a foundation in honor of him. And we focus on two really important issues. One, something that he was passionate about, which is ending gun violence. And that was something he was passionate about. And what we're passionate about is curing epilepsy, which unfortunately took his life. And that kind of like really propelled me into the world of activism and hearing people's stories and learning about that. And like one thing that, you know, I'm excited about is the change that we can, like, I know I can make with my vote. Like I was reading over Joe and Kamala's plan to combat gun violence. And what I love about it is that I think a lot of people fear change inherently. And we assume that, oh, okay, solving this problem means getting rid of our Second Amendment rights, that, you know, our rights will be stripped. And that's super valid. And like we've been talking about is that this campaign listens. And they went, no, we're not trying to do that. We acknowledge and we understand and we respect your Second Amendment right, but we also can solve these issues if we all work together. And that's something that's really exciting that, you know, I've been looking forward to as an advisor at the Cameron Boyce Foundation, but also as an individual American, is knowing that we can come back to middle grounds and go, okay, how can we make sure that we all are serviced and all feel safe?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to make 2 points about what you said, which are really inspiring to me, which is number one, I think like a lot of people, you were inspired to get engaged because of a personal experience you had, right? And sometimes it's not by choice. Something, a tragedy happens to you, or I think for others, the way I talked about this is, you know, what do you care about, right? And take your time to figure that out. Like pick an issue, right, that moves you in some, you know, deep way where you feel like you can't possibly sit by, or, you know, perhaps something that you bring a unique perspective to based on, you know, personal experience. And that's exactly what you did. And I think it's such a great example of each of us can think about our unique experiences, how, you know, we are affected by these issues and decide that we're going to do something. And you decided to, you know, take that step and to do more, right? And to think about how you could really have an impact. And then also, like, you're doing the research. You just, you know, you're an advisor for the campaign. You are, you know, able to talk about what the platform is about because you are reading up on these issues. You are a subject matter expert on that. And I would also challenge everyone to know that each of us can be doing that, right? Especially if you pick, I think we live in a world that, I think you said this already, that it's so overwhelming, right? When we talk about, I think young folks wondering how this translates and what the concrete connections are to impacting your everyday life. It's overwhelming. It's something new every day. And again, that is part of their strategy, but it's also just the world we live in. And I have a lot of people saying like, oh, I just feel, you know, it feels daunting to just do anything. And I think that's the message of like, pick something and then just take that first step, right? And each of us has the power to do that in our own communities. We are all influential and can really be organizers, right, around this stuff. So I just want to remind people of that. And obviously your core voice and power certainly comes from voting. So please make a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. There are lots of resources there. The Vote Joe app is another one where you can get resources. Don't wait, don't delay. If you have a mail-in ballot, as we both have, you know, get it in right away. Just make a plan, make sure your friends and family have a plan. I've been joking that like, I'm just going to be that like annoying ass, you know, friend, family member, and who like people can't stand because I won't shut up about voting in the election. And it's just like, yes, that's who I am, proud of it. And you're going to have to just deal with it. Because I'm not going to wake up the next morning and wonder if I could have done any bit more. So.
You know what's funny is my mom and dad have turned into those people.
Nice.
I was hanging out with him the other day, and my parents were like, "Did you register to vote? Are you on top of everything? Because we didn't get your ballot at our house." And I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm getting my ballot."
I love it.
Don't be afraid to be that annoying person, because my parents are all about it, and if Jas and Harry can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. Well, thank you again for all of your support. Thank you for everything you are doing, for having this conversation on a Saturday. We have 24 days left, and I feel good. I appreciate what you said too, which is that at the beginning, which, you know, I feel good, I feel hopeful, but we can't take anything for granted. We got to sprint all the way through Election Day. I think we saw in 2016, right? Like, we can't get comfortable. There's so many unknowns, and there's so much bullshit that we are up against. So we got to keep it going till November, through November 3rd. So thank you again.
Have an amazing weekend, my friend. I'm sure it's going to be exhausting.
Yeah.
The work that you're doing.
Somebody earlier was like, I hope you have a relaxing weekend. I was like, what's a weekend? I don't do those anymore. Exactly. It is enjoyable though, because I get to be with people like you and to be in community, even though it's virtual. I mean, that's the silver lining of all of this. And it's why it's easy to engage, right? Like, I'm sitting on a couch doing this. There's, you know, something for each of us to do, even if it's like texting a couple friends every evening. So thank you. And I know that you're doing a lot of work too. So enjoy your weekend, whatever that may mean.
Yeah, likewise. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Meena, you're a legend, and hopefully we will see each other in person after this pandemic is over.
That is my hope. Let's get leaders elected who know how to contain a virus, and then we can all hug each other. As you said, back to basics. So yes, I hope I get to meet you in person soon too.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right, see you later.
Bye. Okay, that was amazing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I got a lot out of that conversation. I hope you guys did as well. Have an amazing weekend. You know, take some time to relax. I understand the news is like really overwhelming. it is overwhelming for me. So make sure you take some time to take care of yourself and your mental health. But yeah, thank you, friends, and have a great weekend.